Okay, so today we have another Terry Farrell magazine or interview and stuff. This one is from Star Trek, the official monthly magazine, and this one is from February 1996, and was originally £2 and 95 shillings. Okay, so uh, this one is about, or this one says, dressed to trill, Terry Farrell reveals her symbiont secrets. Alright, so what's going on in LA? And the article is on 12. Star Trek, wait, is it on 12? Oh no, that's something else. That's a different Deep Space Nine thing. This one is on 52, keeping pace with Action Barbie. Terry Farrell talks about playing Dax and her hopes for the future. And it has a picture for one of the seasonal photos. And it has a bunch of other Trek stuff. Not just Deep Space Nine, but also some of the other Trek series. Whoa, what's going on with this? Whoa. Where's that at? Happening at? And also it has some Star Wars stuff too. And looks like there is, let me see here, a comic book or so. So I guess this isn't just a magazine, but is also, I guess part of the magazine is a comic book also, or one of the next generation comic books. And there's actually quite a lot of pages that are about the comic. I don't know why it said the next generation, because this is, did it say next generation? I thought it did. Yeah, it says Star Trek The Next Generation, but this is, it looks like from from one of the original series or so. Oh, so it does have The Next Generation too. It must be one of those comics or episodes where they do the what was it called? The time travel or the different dimension. I forget what it was called. All right, so there is a huge picture of Dax, and this one it says Terry Farrell. It's the worm that's old. If she didn't have the worm inside of her, she'd probably find Bashir very attractive. Oh, and there's also two pictures, smaller one here. And it says opposite, just a woman and her symbiont, Jadzia Dax. Left, the sword of Kalis, the phaser of Dax. Keeping pace with Action Barbie. Lou Anders comes face to face with Star Trek Deep Space Nine's favorite symbiont. As Star Trek Deep Space Nine enters its fourth season, Jadzia Dax has emerged as one of the most interesting and enigmatic of Star Trek characters, a worthy successor to the niche left by such timeless noteworthies as Mr. Spock and Commander Data. Jadzia Dax is the cerebral, balanced, mature old man of the station's team, yet she tempers this wise persona with a sardonic sense of humor and a tinge of sexuality and double entendres. Journey with us as we dip below the surface as Lou Anders talks with Terry Farrell about life and love, about sexual discontinuities and small anonymous worms. How would you act if you were 350 and then some years old, says Terry Farrell, speaking of the motivations behind her on-screen counterpart Jadzia Dax. Geez, unless you were really bored with people, you'd have to find it amusing that people got themselves in the situations they did. Jadzia Dax is a trill, a joint species, a hybrid of host and symbiont who lends a kind of bemused wisdom to the crew on Deep Space Nine. But beyond the peculiar sense of humor that Terry instills in her character, she feels that the symbiont's great age makes it easy for the character to be calm and collected in life or death situations. What have I got to lose, she says, speaking as Dax. It's very easy for me to be heroic and care about other people because I've already lived 9 lives. This sense of heroism and strength isn't entirely manufactured. It's obvious talking with Terry that she shares a lot of this love for life and inner strength with the Trill. She imparts a sense of fun and the kind of cool confidence that comes with inner strength. In fact, Terry performs so many of her own stunts that sometimes the folks at Star Trek often don't even bother to hire a stunt double. Her ability was a pleasant surprise recently to actor-director LeVar Burton. On scene to direct The Sword of Kalis, a recent DS9 episode in which Dax and Worf join original series Klingon Core John Colicos in a search for a legendary weapon. LeVar didn't know that I know how to do my own stunts until I did one. He said, "You're my hero, you're Action Barbie." How does the actress feel about being compared to a small plastic doll? I think that was the best compliment, she says. He meant it as a compliment. You look beautiful, but you're still, you know. If he just said I was Barbie, that would be one thing. But Action Barbie, that's sort of like one of the X-Men chicks. A reference to the famous Marvel comic characters now blockbusting their way across children's television as cartoon heroes in the US and UK. Speaking of LeVar Burton, Terry talks about what it's like to be directed by the TNG star. He's a very interesting director, she says. I find him very organized and very fun to work with. I think he's probably fun because he knows what he's doing, so he can relax at work and have a great time. But he's very clear and very specific about what he wants, and if you don't feel comfortable with it, he feels comfortable enough to help you explore what would work well for the scene. He doesn't get stuck in what he wants, but he knows what he's looking for. There's a nice flexibility there. And there's some more Dax and Klingon pictures. And from various episodes. And it says Dax freely indulges in a bit of male bonding with the Klingons Worf and Kor, a symbiont in complete control of its destiny. The Doctor has had more than medicine and food on his mind. Dax and her former host's lover find themselves drawn to each other despite their race's abhorrence of such an act. Action Barbie mingles with some strange Kens. And on the other one, it says Dax wonders where the whistling is coming from. Dax and Kira indulge in a spot of fantasy. Dax and Sisko share a more tender moment. Two more fine reasons for watching DS9. Dax pursues action of a different kind. Alright, so back to the article. It says I left off at flexibility is the operative word when you're playing a member of a joined species. As a composite of various former host memories, Jadzia Dax has to look comfortable playing a love scene, wielding a bat'leth, or gambling with a Ferengi. Does Terry ever find this to be too much of a stretch? I'll read a scene and I'll look at it as to whether it's a masculine charged or feminine charged. It's a different kind of strength that I think about, whether she's being fun-loving or serious. I've never fought women who were trying to be strong and in the need to do so ended up being bitchy were very attractive. That looks really insecure. Strong people are usually very calm about what they're saying. They feel really centered about it. When she first began the role at 28, Terry would call up her older friends and ask them for a point of view. She explains that really helped me a lot because I think of her Dax as being the adult, the one who has been through a lot, who has to pull in the reins and make the decision that may not be the easiest for her, but that would benefit the most people. As to the dichotomy of masculinity and femininity, it's just finding the balance of both. When is strength too harsh? When is it sensitive to other people's feelings? Sometimes I have to play her more masculine because she's in that situation with the Klingons and what have you. With them I try to be a little more tough, a little more of the old man. But even beyond delivering a good performance, Terry is proud to be a part of something bigger. She hopes that every storyline will help broaden people's minds and open up their understanding and their compassion for human beings. Thou shalt not judge is perhaps the most obvious underlying theme of Star Trek. After all, it's very hard to be prejudiced against other humans when you've learned to accept Vulcans and Romulans and Klingons. With all the aliens and all the different races of people, we'll all still have conflicts, but it has nothing to do with what race or alien you are. What kind of person you are is the most important thing. I think that's a pretty important message, and obviously one that this country needs. It's probably the simplest thing I can think of that makes me proud to be a part of the show. The most recent and controversial episode to push the envelope and broaden our horizons is Rejoined, an episode which features Dax and another female Trill in a passionate love story whose very significance lies in its subtlety. They didn't want it to be sensationalized, Terry explains. It shouldn't be such a huge big deal. I have a lot of gay friends, and of course, to them it is a big deal, because usually such a big deal is made out of not doing it on television. So it becomes a huge issue. It's nice when you make such matters kind of everyday. No one mentioned on the show or had a problem with the fact that we were both women. In fact, the episode dealt only with their respective vows as joined Trills and avoided the kind of crassness Roseanne Barr encouraged when she kissed a woman on television. What resulted was a very beautiful and dignified story, but was it hard for Terry, a confirmed heterosexual, to play the role? It was definitely a challenge. She laughs, explaining that it was difficult for both her and her co-star, Susanna Thompson, who played Lenara. She's a really wonderful, really good actress, and we talk about how we felt about the scenes. It wasn't easy for either one of us, but it was an interesting challenge because those parts don't happen very often. It's nice to have a bigger message than just seeing if people liked your work. Did you believe me in it? Is one thing, but we gave people a peek into somebody else's real life in a love story that most people are afraid to tell, and we portrayed it as if it were socially acceptable. And a couple other things on the other page, real quick. It says, how would you act if you were 350 and then some years old? And I felt lost with all the technobabble. I was running around the set yelling, I don't get it. I was so miserable I wanted them to fire me. Terry Farrell speaking to the US TV Guide last year. The other page, I left off here at Terry explains that the mere fact of the controversy surrounding the story dictated how important it was to tell the story in the way that they did. We were hoping that the story would really touch people. It's just too bad when people can't just be who they are and they get caught up in what everybody else thinks. Avery Brooks certainly agrees. Terry feels that his unique vision in the director's chair was the key to Rejoin's success. It was incredibly important to work with somebody that was so impassioned about telling the story, and I find him incredibly passionate. That's one of the qualities I admire and that I've come to rely on the most when I work with Avery. He's very passionate about the craft and about wanting to have another message to get out to the audience. Broadening her own horizons a bit, Terry has just made the jump to CD-ROM in a game called Treasure Quest. It's a mystery game that involves solving heavily encrypted clues, and as the only live actor in the game, Terry plays 10 different characters. I'm a guide, she says, explaining that she's a sort of narrator, reappearing in various guises. All of her diverse forms provide clues, whether from their dialogue or from more subtle means. There's a bit more incentive than the usual CD-ROM game offers. And Cyrus Publishing, the makers of the game, has announced that the first person or group to solve Treasure Quest will win $1 million. The game is to be released on February 23, 1996 at 12:14 a.m. A fact which may, in and of itself, be a clue to the game's solution. Not surprisingly, her work on DS9 made acting in a CD-ROM game easy. It was all green screen, and I didn't realize how much it helped me doing second unit on DS9. It was just so easy from all the experience of just trusting what you're doing. You just have to believe it 100%, and then they move everything else around to be okay. I'll be sitting on a green block, but on your computer it will look like I'm sitting on a telephone. Interesting stuff. Like that. I'll pop out of a teacup. I'm in all these weird settings, and some of them are really surprising. Of course, no interview that touches on DS9 would be complete without the obligatory how do you feel about Worf coming aboard? Question. Terry says that she is excited to have the former TNG Klingon aboard. It's great for me because I was friends with him before I got the part of Dax. I was very excited. His best friend, Mariana Sirtis, is my best friend too. It's like all in the family. Recently, the 4th season episode, Starship Down, seemed to shake up the on-screen family just a little bit. When Dax was trapped in an elevator together with Bashir, the episode seemed to rekindle the flame between the young doctor and Jadzia. Terry talks about the possibility of future romance there. I don't think they'd have a lot in common, but they'd make really good friends. The first year it was fun to have that flirting back and forth. The second year they don't acknowledge it, period, as if they never had it going on the whole first year, which is kind of bizarre. As to the events in the elevator, we're friends now. Nothing happened. It was very sweet, like I enjoyed the attention, but I wasn't going to do anything about it. That's all he needed to know. It's shown that we have had more maturity than we had the first season. Still, Terry is quick to point out that Jadzia is young too. It's the worm that's old. If she didn't have the worm inside of her, she'd probably find him very attractive. But with the wisdom of several lifetimes, Dax sees Bashir for what he is. He's a dog, laughs Terry. There were several episodes where he would try to ask me out, and I'd say, but what about this one, and that one, and the other one? I didn't think he just took them out for a drink. I think that they were implying that he got around. As to Terry's own personal life, I'm very happy being single right now. What about life after Star Trek? Is there another role Terry would like to see herself in one day? I don't know if it's been written yet, but I'd kind of like to be Rogue, the redhead from the South in the X-Men. A live-action movie based on the comic is reportedly in production. She would be so cool to play. With her southern accent, you'd almost think she was ditzy, and yet she's almost the most human of all of them. You'd believe she had another life that was something we could all relate to, and yet she's a superhero. A superhero, one who's beautiful and down to earth. That sounds just about right for Action Barbie. And was that the end of the article? Yeah, that was the last one. There's just some other things here. There's some more Dax pictures. This one is Dax and Kira. And I don't know what that's about. There's something about an alien. This is Dax and a picture of Cisco also. And another Dax and Kira picture. And another picture of Dax and Worf. And over here it says, we were hoping that the story would really touch people. It's just too bad when people can't just be who they are and they get caught up in what everybody else thinks. The other one, it says, with all the aliens and all the different races of people, we'll all still have conflicts, but it has nothing to do with what race or alien you are. What kind of person you are is the most important thing. Did I? Oh, I think I missed some stuff here on the other page before that. Yeah. So, in this picture, or in this corner, it says Terry Farrell profile. Birth date, November 19th. Family, single. Selected credits, modeling. Vogue, Mademoiselle, under exclusive contract. Television, Mimi and Me, The Cosby Show, Paper Dolls, Beverly Hills Madame, Deliberate Stranger, Daniel Steele Star, and New Space Nine. Films, Portfolio, Back to School, Off the Mark, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, Red Sun Rising. Hobbies, fishing. And on the other page, it has another Jadzia Dax profile on both pages here. And it says, scientific duties aboard Deep Space Nine are handled by Starfleet Lieutenant Jadzia Dax. Despite its human female appearance, the science officer is an alien being known as a Trill, a joined species consisting of a host body which contains a symbiotic invertebrate being. 2069, the Dax Trill symbiont is born. Stardate unknown, Dax hosted by Viva, a mother and one of the first women Trill legislators. Stardate unknown, Dax hosted by Tobin, nervous and introverted engineering whiz and father. Stardate unknown, Dax hosted by Emily, a gymnast and mother. 2220, approximate time Jadzia reported Dax last had a real romance. Stardate unknown, Dax hosted by Audrid, a mother of at least two and one time head of the Symbiosis Commission. 2280 and 85, Dax is hosted briefly by shuttle test pilot Torias, who marries the joined Trill Milani Khan and dies in a shuttle test flight his wife had warned him against taking. 2285-86, Dax hosted by the male musician Joran Belar for 6 months until the host's discovery as a murderer and his death. A fact covered up by the Trill Symbiosis Commission until 2371 to avoid scandal. 2286, 2367, Dax hosted by hard-living, womanizing diplomat Curzon, who is over 100 years of age when he dies, negotiates for UFB and Klingons, where he meets and befriends Kor, Kang, and Koloth. Last meets them in 2289 over Blood Oath to avenge their son's killer, mediates Calistron 4 peace in 2339, where he has an affair with leader Tandros' wife. Meets Cisco at Pelio's station, befriends and mentors him for nearly 20 years. Curzon is a member of the Symbiosis Commission and known as a nightmare field docent for Trill initiates. He expels young Jadzia from host training to make her work harder, and to avoid her later realizing he'd had a crush on her. At some point, he fathers a child. 2341, birth of Trill native and future humanoid host Jadzia, has two parents, one sister. Pre-joining academic degrees include exobiology, zoology, astrophysics, and exoarchaeology. Spends 3 years in total as an initiate. 2367, Jadzia makes history as the only initiate washout to come back successfully when she's joined to Dax. Curzon finally acceds to her request to succeed him, feeling guilty about his initial rejection of her and his own feelings. She takes up Klingon martial arts. 2369, as Lieutenant, Jadzia Dax is posted to Deep Space Nine and reunited with Cisco. Discovers Bajoran wormhole to Gamma Quadrant, is accused of Curzon's alleged murder of Calistron 4's General Tandro by jealous son, and found innocent when Whittle's affair with Curzon is revealed. 2370, aids in put down of Bajoran coup with Kira and Cisco, survives short-lived Dax symbiont theft by rejected host candidate Virad, supervises her first initiate trainee, Arjun, and survives unauthorized quest with Kor after taking up Curzon's blood oath with Klingon friends. 2371, Jadzia experiences nightmares of repressed memory and uncovers the secret of Dax's theft by Joran some years earlier on Trill, ready to resign from Starfleet to join new mate on Dimension's shifting Meridian world, but remains behind when her conversion process won't work. Undergoes first Trill Jian Tara, rite of closure, to meet all previous hosts. 2372, promoted to Lieutenant Commander against Trill Taboo and threaten exile for symbionts who reassociate, considers remating with former host Toria's widow's symbiont Khan and its current host Linara, until she succumbs to Trill social pressure. Secretly helps Worf and Kor in a quest to discover the fabled Sword of Kahless. And that was the end of that interview or article. The rest of this stuff is just other Star Trek things. This one is some toys and stuff, Trek toys. And some other things. And there's some other articles and stuff, and advertisements. And that is what happened in 1996.